So Josh is here too. Hi, Josh.
G'day. I'm driving, so I
Oh, okay.
can't
Okay, drive safely.
Yeah.
Okay. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Vinanjana Shalakaya Chakshun Malatam Yaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Narendra, would you like to read the English?
Okay. Of which? This one?
The introduction.
Introduction.
Just for that one verse that we recited the Sanskrit, just the English underneath.
Okay. I was born in darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the touch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now let's go to where we left off last week.
28.
Which was chapter 4, which is transcendental knowledge, text number 28. So we just went in depth a little bit on the translation. So we'll just recite the Sanskrit, the translation, and get into the purport. So chapter 4, text 28. Have you got that?
Yep.
Okay. Dravya yagna stapo yagna yoga yagna stapare Svadhyaya yagna yagnascha yataya samshita vrataha. We'll read it once more. Dravya yagna stapo yagna yoga yagna stapare Svadhyaya yagna Yataya samshita vrata. Bhakti Mala, would you like to read the English?
Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of the eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge.
So remember, the subject at this point in the Bhagavad Gita is different kinds of sacrifices. Different kinds of sacrifices. Remember, ultimately, sacrifice means what? What's the ultimate purpose of sacrifice?
So we can connect to Krishna if we sacrifice something, and we have to adopt something in order to sacrifice.
Yeah, that's yoga, means to connect with Krishna, but sacrifice has, it could say a slightly different angle, slightly different meaning. Yoga means to connect with the Supreme, but sacrifice, yajna. So you have the word yoga, means to connect with the Supreme. There's different ways of doing that. And then we have this word yajna, which means sacrifice. So here's different kinds of sacrifices. So you're looking at it, still it's centered around the Supreme, but there's some slight variation in the word.
Go without, to relinquish something.
Yeah, Josh is saying to relinquish something. So we want to give up something. Give up something for what? Once again, for the Supreme. Like you want to connect with the Supreme. You want to give up something. You want to give something to the Supreme. You want to sacrifice. You want to, Prabhupada explains, when you want to please the Supreme, that's sacrifice. Sacrifice means to do your action, to do your karma for the pleasure of the Supreme. You're giving up the results of your karma. You're giving up the purpose of your activity is to please the Supreme. The results that the activity produces is for the pleasure of the Supreme. So it's all about, the meaning of the word sacrifice is all about pleasing the Supreme. Now, how you do that, so there's different kinds of sacrifices. There's different ways you can please the Supreme. Of course, very few people have realized the Supreme. but they still have some tendency to sacrifice, to give up. Because if you look up the definition of sacrifice in the dictionary, it's probably not going to mention pleasing the Supreme, but it will mention that idea of relinquishing something, giving up something. So a lot of people have that within them, that they want to, isn't it? You want to give something away. You want to give up something. So a few people on the highest realization realize the ultimate objective of sacrifice, of giving away, is to give it to the Supreme. But as we're looking at here, we're going to read in the purport that not everyone's realized that highest dimension of the Supreme, but still they have that tendency to want to sacrifice. So let's get into that. But one word in the translation we didn't really talk about last week, which is very important, is the word vrata. The last word in the translation, vrata. Very important word. Vrata means vow. Vow.
Oh, yeah.
To make a vow.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the English, Prabhupada says, having accepted strict vows. V-O-W, vow. What is a vow? What does it mean? An oath? Jayanti's saying an oath or a promise? Very serious promise. A vow is a very serious promise.
Yes. The one in the church, you exchange the vow that the husband and wife.
Yeah, like that. That's a vow, like marriage. Marriage,
Yeah.
that's vow. That's a vow. You might be making the vow just in your mind. That marriage is not just like that. That's verbal as well, and maybe you write it down too. So you can make it a vow in your mind. You can write down your vow. You can speak your promise, whatever you're promising. You can speak that. So of course, there's different ways you can do it, but that idea there that you're making a promise, it means it's something you're going to stick to. It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to give away $1,000, and you have that thought comes into your mind, but then tomorrow your mind changes and you decided you're not going to give away 1 cent. So that's not a vow. It's something you have to stick with it. You've made a decision. I'm going to be a celibate monk, and you stick to it. Or I'm going to stay with this woman for the rest of my life. So you stick with it. Or I'm only going to eat once a day.
Oh, yes.
For 2020, I'm only going to eat once a day. And you've got to stick with it. You've made the promise. Of course, if you don't make the promise, then that's another thing. But if you have made a promise, then you should stick with it. Not that, tomorrow, I'm hungry, I've already eaten once a day, and I'm hungry, I'm just going to sneak into
If you wake up for Mangala Arti, you got to wake up.
I promised to go to Mangalarti every day for June. So I'm going to get up at 4 in the morning, have a shower and be at the temple at 4:30. So whatever it is, but it's some strict promise. And it's not something that someone else decided for you. I'm making the vow that Narendra is going to eat only once a day this year. No, it's not something someone's imposing upon you. It's something you're deciding. It's a decision you've made, and you want to stick to it. So that when you've decided this is a promise I'm making, I'm going to stick with it, that becomes a vow. Of course, if you make a vow and then break it, then what's that? Like Prabhupada said, you have made a promise to your spiritual master. You have made a promise in front of the sacrificial fire. You have made a promise in front of the devotees to chant 16 rounds every day, to follow the 4 regulated principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. Now you're breaking that. You're not following it. Then what kind of gentleman is that? What kind of gentleman, after making a promise, breaks his promise? Prabhupada talks about it like that. In terms of like initiation, one makes those promises in front of the guru and the fire and the devotees. And then after 6 months or a year or 2 years or whatever, if you break that promise, like Prabhupada said, what kind of gentleman breaks his promise? What kind of gentle lady breaks his promise? Of course, this is the symptom of Kali Yuga, this modern age, that, you know, that people have become very weak, very lazy, and very lost their good qualities. So this is, I mean, it's not unexpected that sometimes people do break their promise, break their vow, but we should endeavor to our very best. If we do make a promise, we should try to stick to it. And that will at least be a good example for other people. We don't want to add to all the bad examples of people that don't keep their word and truth and so many things. We want to try to be a good example to show that it is possible, even in this difficult age of Kali Yuga, but that it is possible to be a gentleman, to be a gentle lady. So let's try, and then Krishna will be pleased, ultimately. Would anyone like to say anything about that idea of a vow, a promise? It's all good? Okay, so there's 4 different vows that people are going to stick to in this verse of different sacrifices. So one vow, what's one vow? That they're vowed to. So with 4 different sacrifices here. Well, these are people who have made a particular promise to make a particular sacrifice. So what are the 4 mentioned in this verse?
Sacrificing their
Personal possessions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one vow you can make is you vow or you promise to give away whatever it is that you possess. It might be 100%, it might be 50% or 10% or whatever, something so that you have to stick to that. That's a vow. And then another one, so possessions, that's one sacrifice. Just look at the verse. That's all in the verse. 4 different. Austerity, yeah. So that's a vow one can make to perform particular austerity. Remember we talked about what austerity means? Does anyone remember that was here last week or knows? What is the meaning of austerity?
Minimal.
Minimizing, that's part of it. Prabhupada explains the word austerity. Of course, the dictionary might say something different, but this is from a Krishna Consciousness point of view. To voluntarily do some activity that's difficult. To voluntarily accept some difficulty in life for a higher purpose. You have a higher purpose in mind. In order to achieve your goal, to achieve your purpose, you have to push through some difficulty in order to get there. And that's true not only spiritually, to achieve some perfection spiritually. I mean, like Josh, for example, I've seen pictures of him where he can put his leg behind his head and do all kinds of things. Now it looks very easy, but I'm sure in order to get to that perfection, he went through a lot of difficulties, performed a lot of austerities, a lot of difficulties. Is that true, Josh?
Definitely. People look at it now and it looks fairly effortless now, but oh man, I wish people could see that there's just years of pain and struggle.
Years, see, he said it himself, the horse's mouth, the years of pain. So did anyone force him to go through years of pain? Probably not. He decided to do that because he wanted to achieve that particular perfection. And but even materially, like if you want to get a PhD, MBA, BSc, that piece of paper, is that just pure bliss to get that piece of paper?
No, it takes a lot of efforts.
What happens before exams?
Oh, my blood pressure up and down.
Blood pressure up and down. Anything else?
I don't feel like to eat anything, and like just
you don't eat anything. Fasting. So there's fasting. That's austerity, right? Fasting. That's difficult. Does anyone like fasting? It's difficult. And maybe going without sleep. Everyone enjoys sleeping, right? Who doesn't enjoy sleeping?
That's nice.
Sleeping, like before exams, generally students don't sleep. You know, so that's austerity. So even to get that, even, you know, you want to be, even like we hear that prime ministers, even like in New Zealand, this Ardern, Mrs. Jacinta Ardern, and in Australia, right? You know, in America, generally the prime ministers, presidents, and that they hardly sleep. A lot of them only sleep 3, 4, maybe 5 hours a day at the most, because they got a lot of responsibilities. They're very responsible.
That's why Donald Trump all the time I've seen that he feels sleepy when he just do the lecture something. I can see that.
It's because he hardly sleeps.
Yeah.
That's austerity he's taking up. You know, so materially or spiritually, it doesn't matter. Whether you're a Hare Krishna or a materialist, you have to go through austerity to get anywhere in life. You can't get anywhere materially or spiritually. I think Deepa's trying to join. I just saw something. Can you help her?
I can see that Deepa.
It's about stuck.
DB? What's the DB means?
Can you help her?
Deepa, you there? Can you hear us?
What's this for?
Oh, she needs to put her on. Deepa, you there?
Can you help her?
Deepa, ayo.
It looks like it's like a mute.
She's muted herself. We can't unmute her.
Yeah, I can see a mute that, yeah.
If you can hear us,
She's just
Now she unmute.
Oh, that's great.
Can you hear?
Put your video on. Then we can see.
welcome, Deepa. Welcome. Nice to hear your laugh.
Oh my goodness.
We can't see you. If you're able to, you can put on your video. Something that says video. Okay, so yeah, austerities. So that's 2.
Is that austerity, like, you know, voluntarily, you says, but like if any prime minister or they're not doing the voluntarily, is they getting paid for that?
No, it's still they're choosing to sleep only a certain amount. That's not written down in the book, in the job description. It's not written in the job description. They only sleep 2 or 3 hours a day.
What's a yogi does that, they're doing that, like, you know, sitting under the tree in the Himalayas, and then they're doing voluntarily. That's austerity, or Jacinta is doing, that's austerity, because voluntarily or getting paid.
You know, if you're voluntarily undergoing some difficulty in life to get where you want to get to, that you could call austerity. Yeah. Okay. But of course, the highest perfection, the ultimate perfection, is to achieve the supreme, because that's eternal blissful life forever. Whereas you get your PhD, MBA, or whatever, you know, material destination you want to reach, it's only temporary. The benefits are only for 1 year or 2 years or 10 years or one life. At the most, it's for one life. Or say, which is what we're going to be reading about, people do austerities to go to heaven. That's the benefit they want. They're doing austerities now, going through some difficulties because they want to achieve heaven. But how long does that benefit of heaven last for? Who knows?
Nobody.
10,000.
10,000 years. Like Imala said, 10,000 years of the demigods, which is 1 day. 1 day there is 6 months here. So it's 180. Multiply that by 180. So 10,000 times 180 of our years. That's how long that the yogi performing austerities can enjoy in the heavenly planets for. But it's still temporary. Compared to eternal life in Vaikuntha in the spiritual world, that's peanuts. That's insignificant. So people have different realizations. So according to different realizations, they engage in different activities to get different benefits. So that was the second one. So what's the third sacrifice mentioned here? So it covered charity, austerities, another sacrifice. Deepa, we're looking at chapter 4, text 28, if you didn't get that. You got it? Okay.
Practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism.
Yeah.
Ashtanga yoga.
Yeah, so that's Ashtanga yoga. The yoga of eightfold mysticism means Astanga Yoga. So we already looked at that. Josh gave us a bit of a rundown about that, and there's a bit. This is also looking at that. Well, it was specifically mentioning in 27 about Patanjali Yoga. There's some little bit of overlap here, but yeah, particularly talking about Patanjali here, it's specifically mentioning Eightfold Yoga mysticism. And then the fourth sacrifice.
And studying the Vedas to advance the transcendental knowledge.
Studying the Vedas. Okay, so 4 sacrifices. So let's get into the purport. Okay, Deepa, do you want to start us off with the purport?
Sorry. Can someone else start, please?
Okay, yeah, sure. And Narendra.
Yeah. Which one, sorry? The 27?
No, 28.
28 purport. These.
Or the purport, or the explanation, isn't it? 28. These sacrifices, is it?
Yeah.
These sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharamshala, Annakshetra, Athitishala, Ananthalai, and Vidyapeeth. In other countries,
just hold off there for a minute. I'll interrupt if necessary to explain something. So Prabhupada's giving examples here of different sacrifices of possessions, and he's mentioning in India. It's very common in India. I mean, of course, in all different cultures to give sacrifice, but he's specifically mentioning India, but you could mention any kind of example from anywhere. So he's mentioning rich mercantile community. What's that? That's the Vaishyas. Well, remember, Vaishyas, those are their productive class. The Vaishyas are the productive class. So obviously, to give away some possessions, you have to have something to give away, right? Generally, like a brahmachari is not going to give away possessions, right? A brahmachari celibate monk is not going to be probably the one to give away possessions because he doesn't have anything to give away. You can only give away something if you've got something to give, right?
Yeah.
Can you give away? I want to give away $1 million, but that's going to be a bit difficult because I don't have $1 million.
You do actually. Janti told me.
But you can only give away what you got. So if you've got $10, you can give away $10, but you can't give away 100, like that. So generally the productive class of people, the Vaishyas, are going to be the ones that are giving away their possessions. And also Prabhupada mentions another one, the princely orders. What does princely order means in Sanskrit? What's the princely order?
Princely order.
Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, right? That's the ashram. And the Varnas is the Sudras, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, Brahmanas. So the Kshatriyas are the princely order. They're the administrative order. They're the administrators. They're the kings, the princes, right? The king and his son is the prince, right? And when the king dies, the prince becomes the king. So he's saying the princely order. So it means like, now we don't have so many princes and kings, but we do have the administrative order still there. You have your Donald Trump and your Jacinta and like that. They're the administrators. They're the politicians, like that. So they also generally have a lot of wealth because how do they get their wealth? Not by doing business, but how do they get their wealth?
They're getting tax and all
taxes.
Yeah,
isn't it? They're taking your money, aren't they, Narendra?
Yeah, everyone.
Hard-earned money. How much are they taking here? They take 15% in New Zealand. How much do they take here in Australia?
I think it depends on your income. It's from 30 to 47%.
25, 30 on the income.
GST. It's another one. So they first of all nick your money in GST, and then they nick some more of it.
Yeah, even if you got $1,
Joint is saying here in New Zealand, even if you only earn $1, you have to pay tax on $1.
Yeah, in Australia as well, every dollar you earn, that Prime Minister wants that a cut. Even if it's overseas income, they want that a tax on that as well.
Yes, yes. So
I think there is a there is a tax. I think there's a 18,000 is the limit
Yes.
here in Australia. I
Correct.
think the first about that will be taxed.
But yeah, so generally the ruling class is going to be quite wealthy too, because they collected some taxes from the citizens. Like the Prime Minister here, she gets $500,000 a year. That's her income. But previously, when the kings and that, they would collect taxes, and they would just utilize that in different ways. So a few differences in how it was done, but they generally do have considerable wealth. Of course, that wealth also gets used for the benefit of the citizens, you know, to make roads and hospitals and education and medical welfare and so forth. So it's not that they're pocketing everything. And that's why they're allowed to take something, because they are, you know, helping the community to function. And, you know, ultimately, like with the Kshatriya system, if someone attacks the citizens, who's going to step up to protect the citizens?
Kshatriya.
Yeah, the prince. The prince is going to be right at the front, and he's going to defend Gulshan and Deepa. Now it's not quite like that. They're under their concrete bunker, and some poor little guy is pushed up to the front. But still, the principle is that they have to arrange some defence protection for the citizens and like that. So because of their doing all that, then they are entitled to take some money. So they would also often, especially these pious kings, pious princes, they would set up charities. So it's mentioned here a few examples. I'll just explain a little bit. Dharmashala, that means a free place for you to sleep. Say you're traveling from Vrindavan to Mayapur, and that's some thousands of kilometers. So where are you going to stay? You're going to fork out $100 every night. In India, a very nice system. These rich merchants and princes, they set up free hostels along the routes. So at the end of every day, there'll be some dharmashala where you can stay. Have you come across that, Josh, in your travels in India?
Well, I know of them, but I haven't personally accessed them. But yeah, it still happens. You know, people who are doing like long trips or like taxi trips or just services like that. Yeah, there's just a place where they can go.
Yes, there's a place we can go. And another one mentioned here is Anachetra. Anachetra means a place. Chetra means place. Where you get anna. Anna means grains or food. So free food. Yeah. Free food distribution. So who's paying for that free food? Someone's paying for it. It's that rich businessman has sponsored that food for today. We'll often see that. There'll be, say, we went to one place called Tirupati, where the formers worship Balaji in South India. Every day they feed between 100 to 150,000 people free food. And when they have a special festival, 500,000 people get free food. Now, is that just coming out of the air? No, someone's paying for that. Some rich businessman that makes nuts and bolts or computers or rubber tires or something, he's decided to pay for the free food for 100 to 150,000 people. And he's given that money to the temple to cook up a free meal for 100,000 people. So that's what some people do, and that's a sacrifice. That's a sacrifice he made, giving away some of their possessions. Of course, it's peanuts for them, because they've got so much money. And this other one, a titi shala, is the same kind of thing. A guest house, free guest house. A titi means at any time, no particular time. It means any time someone turns up, they can come and stay, like that. And this anatalaya is the same kind of
That's an open age.
That's
not
orphan.
open age.
So like that, if you don't have a mum or a dad or whatever like that, and you know they'll look after you, the orphan. And then Vidyapita means that's a place where you get free education. Vidya means knowledge, so that's a place where you get free education. Like that, someone's paying for that also, so that you can get free education. But these are all different charities, and I'm sure a lot of the people that are doing these charities are not thinking about, oh, I'm going to give away this food, or I'm going to provide free accommodation to please Krishna. Most people probably don't have that realization. Maybe a few, but a lot of them are doing it just for other reasons other than to please Krishna. What other reasons could you think of? Why would someone want to give away their wealth to feed people or provide accommodation or knowledge? Maybe to show off, Jayanti said.
Yeah.
Because they'll have they'll advertise it that this is so and so Birla or whatever has given the free food for today. Like when the free food was given in Tirupati, they say who gave the free food. So your name gets promoted, and there's a lot of prestige there, and it makes you feel good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people might give away something for whose pleasure?
Their own pleasure.
Their own pleasure.
Yeah.
Their own pleasure. But at least it may be some purification, and they are giving away something. They are making a sacrifice. But there may be some selfish motives there. So I'm not saying it's going to be necessarily every sacrifice is completely pure, but at least it might be starting the process of feeding the heart. That's what we try to do in this human form of life. It said that the purpose of human form of life is for purification. Now, whether it's 10% purification or 20% or 50% or 100%, if you connect up with the Supreme, you're going to get more purification. And if you're just doing it for some other purpose, there'll still be some purification, but not as much. But at least it start to get the ball rolling. We've got to start from where we're at, and eventually we'll hopefully achieve our destination and connect up with the Supreme and yoga. Okay, so let's hand it over to Deepa. Do you wanna read a little bit there, Deepa? We've just read the first little bit up to Vidyapita. So in other countries.
Yeah, in other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called Dravyamaya Yajna.
Yeah, so that means sacrifice of possessions.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
There are others who, for a higher elevation in life or for promotion to higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities such as Chandrayana and Chaturmashya. These processes entail severe vows for conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmashya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. He does not eat certain foods, does not eat twice in a day, or does not leave home. Such sacrifice of the comforts of life is called Tapomaya Yajna.
Okay, we'll stop there. Thank you, Deepa. Mm-hmm. So this is the sacrifice of austerities. So Prabhupada's mentioning why people perform these austerities. What did he say? Before?
In order to please Krishna?
No, I mean that's the ultimate. but what's mentioned here is not that. It's the reason. That's not the reason here.
Higher elevation in
This
life.
is talking about the general masses of people that are engaging in these particular sacrifices. It's the very rare soul that's performing sacrifices to please the Supreme. But generally people perform sacrifices for other reasons to get some temporary benefits. So what's it mentioned here? What's the purpose of them performing austerity?
Not to get that temporary benefit.
What's mentioned here for promotion to higher planets within the universe, or higher elevation in life, or for promotion to higher planets within the universe. So, and then the example is, well, what can you do to be elevated to a higher planet? What does that mean? When are you going to go to a higher planet? It means after you die. So when the body dies, that's the idea. You do austerities in this life so that when the body dies, your soul will be elevated to a higher planet in the universe. So an example Prabhupada gives is two, Chandrayana and Chandramasya. These are two particular kinds of sacrifices. There's many more, but these are two particular kinds of sacrifices. And he goes into more detail about Chaturmasya. Chaturmasya, sorry. Chaturmasya. So Chatur means four. So, and then he mentions July to October. So this Chaturmasya, this particular sacrifice is done in these 4 months every year. July, August, September, October. That's the rainy season in India. This is particularly talking about what they're doing, the sacrifices they're doing in India, this austerities they're doing in India, because they have a rainy season in India, and that's a great time to perform austerity, because you can't move around, you can't travel because it's raining like anything every day or nearly every day. So generally they would do austerities then in those 4 months. And what are some things mentioned, well, austerities that they undergo?
They don't shave. They
don't shave, which would be very uncomfortable. Nice having a clean shave; it feels very good. But if you like, you know, if you got a big whiskers and beard and you're trying to eat it all the food gets caught in your mouth and it gets all itchy and everything like that, and it's actually an austerity. I mean, of course, a lot of men these days, they keep a beard. They wouldn't be seeing it as an austerity. They think that, you know, it makes them look more attractive to the girls or something. So they may be doing it for whatever different reason like that, or they're too lazy to cut it or whatever like that. Actually, during this lockdown period, no one could go to the barber, isn't it? No one could go to the hairdressers. So a lot of people end up with these big hairs and beard and everything like that. And what we've seen since the lockdown's over, there's a massive queue of people outside the barber shop. Was it like that in Australia too?
Oh no, I've got a bread saloon. That was all the time available. But Mahabhadra as well, he was struggling. You know, Mahabhadra, he goes to the barber, and the first time he requested a bread, if he can cut my hair, you know, shave my head. And then Brett was a bit nervous. You know, if you mess around, then Mahabhadra will kill you. So, but he did it, so because Mahabhadra has got no choice. So Brett cleaned his head.
Yes.
So you're saying that COVID-19 is Chaturmasya for everyone in the world.
It's like Chaturmasya. The world now, the whole world is undergoing Chaturmasya. You can't shave.
It's just a long month, that's all.
But it just started early.
We'll start 1 month. Next year we'll do 2 months. We'll build up to 4, so it's not too much of a shock. And only for those 4 months, only eating once a day.
Oh, that's sacrifice, man. If they were to eat once a day, you lose weight.
Once a day, it's because people enjoy eating. So if you make a vow to eat only once a day, that's a bit of an austerity. And it goes even further. I'll tell you some more details. If this is a strict Chaturmasya, of course, there's all different levels. Some people adopt 25% of the rules, 50% of the rules, 75% of the rules. But if you do 100% of the rules, you're not allowed to eat with your hands. And the food is thrown on the ground.
How do you eat it then?
Not thrown on the ground, but it's on the ground. And you've got to put your hands behind your back and you eat like a dog.
Like a dog. Oh.
You eat like a dog with your mouth. You eat it off the ground. That's definitely an austerity, isn't it?
That's the challenge.
So it's a bit of a challenge. No hands and only once a day, and not necessarily all your favorite things.
That's a torture.
You like to eat your wood-fired pizza and everything like that. No wood-fired pizza. Gulshan just had wood-fired pizza. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but I've given it away. He's got a new wood oven outside the back of the...
No. Don't go there. Come back to the point.
Gulshan, you're going to do the
no pizza for 4 months. So like that. Very basic food. Maybe just rice and dal if you're lucky for 4 months. Like that. And this is an austerity. You know, so why are they doing that? Prabhupada's mentioning a lot of times because they want to go to the heavenly planets in the next life. They want to enjoy there for 10,000 years of demigods. Like that. So they're undergoing some temporary difficulty in order to get a long-term benefit. But we found out there's even a longer-term benefit than that, and that's going back to Godhead. So we try to do, you know, maybe sometimes similar things. Sometimes even Hare Krishna devotees engage in the Chaturmasya, especially in India, because it makes sense because it's the rainy season. You can't really do much in India during the rainy season, so you might as well do some extra austerities, isn't it? Like now, if you've been locked in your house for 1 month or 6 weeks because of the COVID-19, what are you going to do? You might as well read some more Bhagavad Gita. You might as well, get a Srimad Bhagavatam set and read it. You know, you might as well chant more rounds. If you were chanting 4 rounds, then chant 8. If you're chanting 8, chant 16. If you're chanting the 16, chant 32. Because you've got more time, right? If you've been locked out of your job, you've been locked out of going to the cinema and the beach and so many things, what are you going to do? You might as well perform some austerity that's going to give you some benefit. Why sit around and just eat and sleep? That's going to give you no benefit. You're just going to get a heart attack faster. You might as well do something in your home that's going to give you some more benefit. But then think about that. Does that make sense? Anyone want to say anything about that?
Is the Ekadashi is also part of it?
Yeah, so Ekadashi, the idea is to do more austerities on Ekadashi. So twice a month, on the 11th day after the new moon and full moon, do more austerities than what you normally do. Do more chanting, more reading, more devotional service, more bhakti than what you normally do, and cut down on your bodily activities. That's the idea with why are they not shaving for 4 months? Well, what are you shaving? You're shaving the body, but you're not the body. Forget about the body. You're always thinking about the body 24/7, 365 days. So this austerity is don't think about the body for 4 months. Don't think about food. You're only going to eat to survive just once a day. No fancy table, no fancy knife and fork, no fancy cutlery, no fancy food. Just really just bare necessities, just survive. Just to get your mind off the body, because we're so bodily conscious, so absorbed in the body. What do I look like and everything like that. So that's the idea with these austerities. Focus more on the divine and less on ourselves. So that's the principle. It's not just some meaningless ritual that why they don't shave for 4 months, why they only eat once a day, like that. Now there's scientific reasons behind it. And because people have forgotten these scientific reasons, they don't follow these vows anymore. Most people don't do Chaturmasya. Most people don't chant Hare Krishna. Most people don't follow the 4 regulator principles, no meat eating, intoxication, and so forth, because they don't know what the benefits are. They don't understand that a human being should become detached from the body. Why do we want to become detached from the body?
Because body is the cause of all problems, isn't it? We are not body, basically.
The body.
Yeah, the body's the cause of so many problems. So, you know, why be attached to the source of your misery?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Why be attached to? You can look at that in the 5th chapter, text 22. If in your own time or whatever you want. 5:22, it talks about that the body is the source of our misery. So why be attached to the thing that's causing you to suffer? So it makes sense, it's intelligent to become detached from the body, which is also means you're letting go of your misery. You're getting free from your suffering. And if you want to let go of the misery, can you just live a life of detachment from the body? Are you just going to float in the air?
No.
You detach from one thing to do what? Like you can only lift up one of your feet off the ground if you do what with the other one?
You have to be on the ground.
You have to be on the ground. You let go with one foot, you got to put another foot somewhere else. You can't have both feet off the ground. You can't live in just a detached state of like floating, isn't it? So you let go of one thing to accept another thing. So you detach from the material world in order to become attached to the spiritual world, to become attached to the spiritual life. So we want to become detached from the body, not just to let go of suffering, but to become attached to our real life, which is spiritual life, to become attached to our blissful life, our eternal blissful life. Otherwise, you've only got half the equation. But the full equation is detached from the material world for the purpose of becoming attached to Krishna, becoming attached to the spiritual world. Whereas in Buddhism or Mayavadi philosophy and personalism, you're only getting half of the equation. Become detached from the material world, and that's it. That's all they tell you. Become detached from suffering. Give up suffering. Become detached from the body and the will. But they don't tell you give you any further information. And the full picture is we want to become detached from the spiritual world so that we can become attached to the spiritual world. Can you walk into the next room if one of your feet is glued to the floor in this room? You can't go to another place if you don't let go of your current place. I've told some of you the story before of one couple that just got married and they went on this nice honeymoon boat ride, and they left in the evening, and the boatman was rowing very actively the whole night long, and when the sun came up in the morning, where were they?
Where they started.
The same place where they started. How could they possibly be in the same place they started after a whole night of the boatman rowing? What's the reason?
Both wasn't rowing.
No, he was rowing.
They untied the boat from the field.
He hadn't taken out the anchor or untied the boat. You have to let go of the anchor. If you're still anchored, you can't get anywhere. You've got to take up your anchor. So there's no way that you can progress in spiritual life if you don't detach from material life. So that comes together. So that's the purpose why these austerities would be there, to become detached. And of course, there by these austerities, like Chaturmasya and that, they're trying to please these particular demigods. Someone might be wanting to do a sacrifice to perform austerities to please the sun god, so they can go to the sun, or the moon god, so they can go to the moon, or the god of heaven, Indra, so they can go to the heaven. You know, so they perform. There's different kind of austerities to please different kind of demigods. Does that make sense? Let's look at 9th chapter. Let's look at 9th chapter. I'm just thinking as I'm saying this. 9th chapter, text 20. Yeah, 25. 9th chapter, text 25. Thank you, Jayanti. 9th chapter, text 25.
Those who worship the demigods will take birth again, the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and the spirit will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me.
So some people say, oh, well, whatever kind of worship you do, whatever kind of process you follow, well, you're all going to end up in the same place. But Krishna's not saying that here. You know, whether that doesn't work, does it? Like, if you drive north from Sydney, or west from Sydney, or south from Sydney, or east from Sydney, are they all those different routes going to end up in the same place?
No.
No. If you go east, you're going to end up in the ocean. You know, if you go west, you're going to end up in the desert. Like that, if you go south, you're going to end up in Melbourne. North, you're going to end up in Brisbane, right? So it's not that, oh, whatever you do, everyone goes to God. No, that's not correct. If you worship God, you go to God. Krishna says that. If you worship the demigods, you're going to go to the demigods. You're not going to go to God. If you worship the ghosts, you're going to go to the ghosts, not to God. And if you worship the ancestors, you're going to go to the ancestors. So there will be a particular worship for the demigods. And that worship is different than the worship for the ancestors, which is different than the worship for the ghosts. So there's a different process to please a different person.
But these
like when you worship the ancestors, they would feed them meat often and liquor. Meat and liquor. But you don't offer meat and liquor when you worship Krishna. If you offer meat and liquor to Krishna, your worship's not going to go very far. Right? If you worship a ghost, you'll be offering probably meat and liquor also. You don't do that when you worship like that. If you offer, meat and liquor to the demigods, that's also not gonna go very far. They're not going to be very pleased like that. So depending on what your objective is, then there'll be a different process of worship. But the principle is the same. Like I'm saying, sacrifice means to please that particular person that you're sacrificing to. If you want to please Krishna, you have to find out what Krishna wants. You find out what Krishna wants and you give him that. You sacrifice that. Like Krishna is saying in the following verse, text 26, where 25, 26 says, if you want to worship him, what do you offer him? Patram puspam phalam toyam. He's saying, if you offer me a leaf, fruit, flower, water with love and devotion, I'll accept that. So if you want to worship Krishna, that's how you worship Krishna, by offering him vegetarian food. Like that. Does that make sense? So these people, they want to go to heaven, so they'll be worshipping the demigods. Their purpose is to go to the demigods. Their purpose is not to go to the spiritual world, to Krishna. They want to go to the heavenly planets. Why do they want to go to the heavenly planets? Because they don't know how much better the spiritual world is. They don't know how much better the Vaikuntha is than the heavenly planets. It means their knowledge is not complete. You're only going to worship Krishna if your knowledge is full, if your knowledge is complete. If you have incomplete knowledge, then you're only going to act according to that knowledge that you have, isn't it? You can only act according to the knowledge you have. Does that make sense? So again, you can only act up to the amount of knowledge that you have, right? If you have knowledge that says that vegetarian food is good for your health, it's good for the planet, it's good for the environment, it's good for the resources, you know, it's better for the animals because they're not getting their head cut off, you know, for compassionate reasons, it's better for your karma. You don't have to take birth as an animal and be slaughtered, you know, thousands of times. So when you have that knowledge, then naturally your activities will change. You'll become a vegetarian, right? But if you don't have that knowledge, then you'll be acting on a lower level. So these people are performing these particular austerities because they have knowledge on that level. And we agree that heaven is better than the earth. There's no question about that. That life on heaven is better than life on this earth. There's no question about that. But take it, there's another step beyond that. That then the life of being in the Brahman, and the Brahma Jyoti and the Brahman, being, if you merge your soul in the spiritual life, that's far, far better than the heaven. Far, far better than heaven. But then there's more knowledge than that. Then more higher, more blissful life than merging your soul in the Brahman is to go to the Vaikuntha, the spiritual planets. And then there's even more higher knowledge than that. Even better than being on one of the Vaikuntha planets, where you have a four-armed form of Vishnu-like form, is to go to the top planet in Vaikuntha. The top planet, there's unlimited planets in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. The very top planet in Vaikuntha is called, what's the very topmost planet in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, called? Jayanti says Goloka.
Vrindavan.
Go means cow, Loka means planet. That's a planet with so many cows, Krishna's cows. Krishna has so many cows. So Krishna lives on that planet, surrounded by so many cows. And that's the topmost planet in the spiritual world. That's the ultimate perfection. That's the top. That, you know, you have a 108-story building. That's the 108th floor. You know, if you come down to the 80th floor, that's like, you know, that's like the other Vaikuntha planets. If you come down to the 70th floor, that's like Brahman. If you come down to the 50th floor, that's like heaven. If you come down to Earth, it's like the 20th floor. And then there's hellish planets too. That's like first floor, second floor. So there's different levels. But, you know, someone that's on the 50th floor thinks that's the top. But that's as far as they've reached. But it's not the top. It's more higher than that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And in Bhagavad Gita, we're so lucky to have Bhagavad Gita because Krishna himself is giving us the full picture, the complete picture. Whatever's in Buddhism, you'll find it is in the Bhagavad Gita, plus more. Whatever's in Christianity, you'll find in here, plus more. Whatever's in Muslim Quran, or whatever's in the Guru Granth, or whatever's in Western philosophy, you know, you'll find it here, plus more. So this is giving us the complete knowledge. And then you have to, and then ultimately after getting that complete knowledge, then you have to decide. Remember, it's voluntary. It's voluntary. Then you have to choose what you're going to do. Okay, let's continue. Bhakti Mala. Would you like to continue? So we read about austerity. Now we're going to read about the next sacrifice, the eightfold mysticism. Go back to chapter 4, text 28. In the purport. There are still others.
There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas, like the Patanjali system, for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga, or Ashtanga yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to...
We'll just discuss a little bit about that. Sorry to cut you off. So here, we read about people performing austerities to go to heaven. Here's some different objectives. What are the different objectives mentioned here in the different mystical yoga system? What's some objectives, some goals? What are some other goals? One goal is to go to heaven, right? Some people have another goal.
Merging.
Like this half a dozen of us here, we probably have half a dozen goals, isn't it? We're all individuals. We have different goals.
Levitation.
What's that?
Levitation.
Levitation, yep, that's within one of them, which we want to talk about. That's mentioned, Prabhupada says, for particular perfections. So as Josh has just said, levitation. That's called in Sanskrit, that's called Lagima city.
Well, it's the city. I don't know if it's Lagima. Is it Lagima? Can't remember. But
yeah. Hey, Ben, is that Ben in the background? Hey, Ben. Hey, my friend Ben, how are you doing?
Everybody, you look handsome in the picture.
It's all disguise.
When did you get this picture?
What about me?
It's good deep.
Okay, I better not interrupt.
Lovely to see you, Ben. Take care.
To see you, to hear you too. See you guys. Have fun.
See ya. So yeah, levitation, that's one of the, this is called Asta Siddhi. Asta Siddhi. Asta means 8 and Siddhi means perfection. So in the mystic yoga system, there's 8 perfections the mystic yogi is trying to achieve these perfections. Sometimes they can get all 8 perfections. Sometimes they may achieve one of them or 2 of them or whatever. But that's what their goal is, to achieve some perfection. So that could be a goal, why they're performing this Ashtanga yoga or Patanjali system of yoga, Hatha yoga like that, is to get some or all of these perfections. So one of them is called Anima Siddhi. Anima means to make your body very small. Another one, Mahima Siddhi, make your body very great. Like if you read Krishna's pastimes, you read sometimes these demons coming to Vrindavan, were they generally very small demons?
No.
Can anyone name a demon that came to kill Krishna? Johnny says Agasura. Do you know how big Agasura was?
No.
He was about 8 miles long, serpent. 8 miles. Do you know, ordinarily, has anyone seen an 8-mile long snake in their backyard?
No.
So that's not an ordinary kind of snake. He actually became 8 miles long because he's got one of the Asta Siddhis. He actually a lot of the demons, they also engage in yoga, in mystic yoga, because they want these powers. See, generally materialistic people, they want material power. And is it that through the yoga system process, you can get material powers. I hope Josh is not going to hear this and go get sucked into that line.
The warnings, they're all already.
This is not for you. You're meant for more than this, just some temporary powers. Otherwise, you'll see an 8-mile high Josh walking down Mayfield, walking down Newcastle, 8 mile high. So, but it is possible, according to the yoga system. Even in the time that the British were ruling India, which is not very long ago, there was one yogi, he was walking around naked, no clothes. And the British, in their gentlemanly way, weren't very happy to see a naked man walking around. So they said, hey mate, put some clothes on or we're going to throw you in the jail. Now he completely ignored them. So the next day when he walked around naked in the street, they threw him in jail. And do you know what happened? Some of you have heard the story. After they threw him in jail,
he get it out that from the
The
keyhole.
next day he was out again. And I thought, hang on, I thought we put him in jail yesterday. How did he get out? So they threw him in jail again. And the next day,
He get out.
he was out again. Eventually they found out how he was getting out. He would shrink his body down so small, he would go out through the keyhole in the door. He was going out through he was shrinking his body, going out through the keyhole in the door, and then expanding to his normal size, because he had animicity, that he could become very small.
Wow.
There's some yogis you may have heard of, they have called practicity. Practicity means you can bring anything to you from faraway places. That's quite a commonly known one. Like some yogi, he'll produce some pomegranate in his hand from Iran, or some mango from Fiji. Or just boom, and he's got a mango in his hand. A second before there was no mango, and then a second later there's a mango there. And it didn't come out of his sleeve. I mean, of course, there's magicians also that can do their magic tricks. We're not talking about magicians. He's actually bringing an article from a faraway place like that. Of course, there are cheaters too that don't have these perfections, and they just through magic tricks they do it. But there are people that can really do like this. Prabhupada talks about yogis that live up in the Himalayas, and every certain number of years, like every 4 years, and then I think there's another one, there's this big festival in India called Kumbh Mela, which is in a place called Triveni, where 3 rivers meet. Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, my father-in-law said.
Yeah.
So, and the distance from Triveni to the Himalayas is thousands of kilometers. And these yogis, they would come to the festival. How did they get there? Did they go by plane? No. Did they go there by train? No. Did they get there by car, by bus? No. How they went there, Prabhupada said, they would dip down in the Ganga, because the Ganges River is in the Himalayas, right? It's where it starts from. They would take bath in the Ganga, and they would pop up in the Triveni. That's thousands of kilometers downstream. And not that they were swimming breaststroke or freestyle or whatever for weeks and months. They had some way, like astral travel kind of thing. They would travel under the water, just pop in one place down and pop up in the other place. So they have these kind of perfections. And the one that here Josh was mentioning is Lagima City. They can make themselves very light. Like it's mentioned, right? Jesus walked on the water because he's a mystic yogi. He's a yogi. So if you like that, a yogi can walk on water, can float. I've seen pictures of these young little, cute little Buddhist monks, and they're like, in their lotus position, and they're about 2 meters off the ground, because they have mastered some of these perfections. But of course, once again, why are they doing it? Often it's for their own satisfaction. It's for their own pleasure. So it's still material. It's not spiritual. Spiritual, how do you define material and spiritual? Spiritual is for Krishna's sense gratification, Krishna's satisfaction. And material is for our own personal sense gratification. If you do something for your own personal sense gratification, that's material activity. That's called karma. That's called karma, lust. And if you do something for Krishna's satisfaction, that's called prema or love. That's a spiritual activity. That's bhakti. That's bhakti. Okay, so let's continue. Gulshan.
And some travel to all the sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called yoga yana. sacrifices for a certain type of perfection in the material world. These are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literature, specifically the Upanishad and Vedanta Sutra, or the Sankhya philosophy. All of these are called Swadhyaya Yagna, or engagement in the sacrifice of studies.
Yeah, Swadhyaya means study. Yeah, sacrifice.
All these yogis are faithful, engaged in a different type of sacrifice, and are seeking in a higher state of life. Krishna conscious, however, is different from these because it is the direct service of Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of above mentioned type of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees themselves. Krishna consciousness is transcendental.
This is very interesting what Prabhupada says here. Wow. That's so profound. We could speak for a long time about this. But before we do that, it's something that just came to my mind. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifices and seeking a higher status of life. So no one does anything right. No one does anything unless you have faith in it, isn't it? If you're doing something, it's only because of what?
Trying to prove you got something, but nothing is engaged in the Krishna consciousness. None of
But no, just look at this point.
Because you think something will happen, you have faith there'll be a result that you're looking for.
Yeah. You're doing something because you think it's gonna give you the result that you're looking for. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. I mean, why would you spend 3 or 4 or 5 years at university if you didn't think it was going to help you fulfill your desires?
This is why no one ever really has an absence of faith. You know how sometimes you might think that having faith is difficult. It's not. We're always 100% of the time acting on faith. It's just that what we have the faith in changes.
Yeah, that's it. That's an awesome point, Josh. Awesome point. You know, some people say, oh, you religious people, you know, you're all into faith and everything. I'm a scientist. I'm all into science and everything. But he has faith in science. It's also faith. Everyone has faith, whether you're a religious person or whether you're an atheist. You know, the atheist has faith that there's no God, that there's no soul. He has strong belief. He believes strongly in that. That's his. He has faith in that there's no God, there's no soul, no next life. But that's faith. And that motivates him in all of his activities on that premise of that what he has faith in. So there's no question of whether you have faith or you don't have faith. The question is, where are you putting your faith? And you're putting your faith in a particular area according to the knowledge that you have. Like if you look at the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's called the Divisions of Faith. That's the chapter title for the 17th. There's 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. The 17th chapter is called the Divisions of Faith. Now, what do you think the divisions of faith? How would faith be divided? I'll give you a clue. 3 divisions of faith. What would be dividing your faith?
Well, you could have faith in materiality or spirituality, I suppose.
I'll give you another clue. What controls this material world and everything in it, including us?
Hour?
A clue. 3 things.
Rajaguna, Sattva-guna, Tamaguna?
Yeah, the 3 modes of material nature. That's the divisions that divide our faith. Everyone has faith, but according to the modes, according to the gunas, according to what guna you're in, according to what mode or quality is controlling you at a particular time. So if you're being influenced at the present by the mode of ignorance, your faith will be according to that mode. And if mode of passion is influencing you, you'll also have faith in the mode of passion. And if you're being influenced by the mode of goodness, your faith will also be in the mode of goodness. So there's different kinds of faith. There's faith in the mode of goodness, faith in the mode of passion, faith in the mode of ignorance. And so it's according to what is influencing you at that particular time. And and in the mode of goodness, then you have access to more knowledge. So as your knowledge is increasing, then when your knowledge is complete, then you can head towards Krishna consciousness. But then the interesting thing Prabhupada says here, with these other processes, is all about your endeavor. Your endeavor to give away your possessions, and you can achieve success in that. Or your endeavor to perform austerities. That's your endeavor, your austerities. Do fasting is your endeavor. Go without sleep, your endeavor. Or your endeavor to do yoga, perform some yogic process. That's all your endeavor. Or your endeavor to study. But you can get Krishna conscious, you can achieve perfection in any of these processes of sacrifice by your endeavor. But Krishna consciousness, you can achieve perfection in Krishna consciousness by your endeavor. Partially. What is Prabhupada saying here?
Mercy of the Lord.
Yeah.
All these are faithful, engaged in different kinds of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status life. Krishna conscious, however.
See, the yogis, they're engaged in different kinds of sacrifice, with faith. They have faith in what they're doing, and they engage in those activities because they have faith in it. And their faith is in different modes, like they're in the mode of ignorance or passion or goodness, and so they have different kinds of faith, and they're very faithfully doing those different kinds of sacrifices. And by faithfully performing the sacrifices, they will achieve those results. By faithfully engaging in those sacrifices, they will achieve those results. But here, Krishna consciousness is something different. To achieve the result of Krishna consciousness is not just about you doing something. Okay, I'm going to do this sacrifice and I'll become Krishna conscious. Just solely by yourself. Doing it together to do some particular activities and you're going to achieve Krishna consciousness. There's something more to it than that. What's it saying here? Is attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. Transcendental means beyond this world. All these other activities is all within this world, right? Heavenly planets within this world, all these different objectives, getting some mystic powers is all within this world. But Krishna is beyond this world. To achieve Krishna, it's not just by some material means. You can't achieve Krishna just by giving some money away, giving some possessions away. You can't achieve Krishna by doing exercises or breathing or by fasting or doing some austerities. You can't, not by studying the Upanishads or the Vedanta Sutras or any of these kind of things. You can't achieve Krishna's association. Said only by Krishna's mercy or the mercy of his devotees. But then you might say, but then why bother chanting Hare Krishna? Why do I work so hard to chant Hare Krishna if that's not going to help me to reach Krishna? Why do I bother to offer my food to Krishna and read Bhagavad Gita? Why do we bother sacrificing our time on a Thursday afternoon if that's not going to help us to get Krishna? If it's only by mercy and not by my efforts, by my endeavor. But what would you say?
It's
Are we wasting our time
things.
chanting and hearing about Krishna and
It's,
offering food and sacrificing our activities and giving up the results of our activities for Krishna and thinking about Krishna? And yes, Gopal, you have something to say?
Purify us. It helps to purify us.
Helps to purify us?
Yeah, to become pure. Well, yeah, in the hope of becoming purer. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Gosha, you had something to say? Thank you. Well, thank you.
it needs three things in order to. It's first is your sacrifice, second is the bona fide devotee, and third is the Krishna's mercy. All three things necessary in order to move that. If you don't do one thing, you can't move further.
Okay. One time, Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktivedanta Swami, said something very interesting. Don't try to see God, but act in such a way that God will want to see you. Don't try to see God, right? Everyone says that, right? I want to see God. First you show me God, and then I'll believe. Isn't it? People want to see God. But this is the wrong approach. Prabhupada's guru is saying, don't try to see God, but act in such a way that God will want to see you. Now, what is that acting? What acting can you do that God will want to see you? Like, that is the activities of Bhakti Yoga. The activities of Bhakti Yoga are the activities that attract God to us. So we can't achieve the supreme. We can't achieve liberation, the absolute truth, just by our endeavor. There's no staircase we can make to get there, or elevator or whatever like that. It's not just by our endeavor. You've heard about Ravana, right? The big demon Ravana. He had an idea to make a staircase to heaven. He didn't want to go through the normal austerities of pleasing the demigods to go to heaven. So he wanted to go there just by his own endeavor. So he was literally, physically building a staircase up to heaven. He had that much resources to do that. So he was trying to push his way in. Unfortunately, he didn't factor in that Lord Ram would shoot an arrow into his heart before he finished it off. So by our endeavors. So, but to achieve the spiritual realm, you can't do that just by your endeavor. Materially, you can do so many things by your endeavor. But spiritually, we have to look at it a different way. So we try to act in such a way that God will be pleased with us. And then when he's pleased with us, then he liberates us. Then he bestows love for him onto us. Like we say, what's our goal? To achieve love for Krishna, right? We want to achieve Krishna Prema, love for Krishna. Where does love for Krishna come from? From us? Is that love for Krishna something that's generated from us? That's something that's given to us by him. Love for Krishna comes from Krishna. That's given by Krishna as a blessing to us, as mercy to us. If we have some realization, some knowledge of Krishna, where's that coming from? Coming from us? that realization, that knowledge is coming from Krishna because he's pleased with our service. Or, as it's saying here, coming from the Guru, right? If the Guru is pleased with you, say Gulshan cooks something nice for the Guru and gives him, a glass of water when he's thirsty, and drives him, to the beach so he can do some chanting there or whatever, and the Guru will be pleased and give his blessings in the form of giving him some higher knowledge, some deeper insights. This is how we progress in Krishna consciousness, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. We're running out of time now, but if we just quickly go to the chapter, text number 10, one of the essential seed verses of Bhagavad Gita.
What chapter?
10th chapter, number 10.
Number
9, 10, 10. So we just finish with this one. In chapter text 10. Esam sarada yuktanam bhajatam pradipurvikam dadami buddhi yogam tam yainamam upiyantata. You got that one? In 10. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So the understanding, the knowledge, the buddhi, to come to God. See, to come to God, you need knowledge. But where does that knowledge come from? It comes from God. Why did God give the knowledge to you, but not to the guy next door?
Because
there's a reason. That's what your part in the equation is. Mercy doesn't come by itself. There is a cause.
It's also necessary.
It's because look what it says. Serve with love. Two things. That's your part. Your part of the equation, that's your endeavor. Constantly serving. So on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, 365 days. So if you constantly serve Krishna and put your heart into it, I mean, like I said, love comes from him, but what we can do, we put our heart into it. It's like you put your heart into your kids, right? Narendra, you love your kids. You're thinking about them, and you're always absorbed in them, and you care about them deeper. You care about the kids, and you're thinking about them. So we do that for Krishna. We're always thinking about Krishna, and we want to please Krishna, and we always serving Krishna. So if you do that, right, then he's going to do something. Then he's going to start giving you knowledge, and more knowledge, and more realization. And the more knowledge, more realization you have, then you're automatically going to let go of this material world. You're going to let go of all the attachments. You're going to become detached, and you're going to become more attached to him. And then your love for him is going to grow more and more, and you're going to want to serve him more and more. So it's two things together. It's not that we don't have anything to do. It's only God's mercy. Like Christians have that idea. They say it's only by grace, not by works. The Christian idea is that you don't have anything you have to do. You just believe in Jesus and you're saved, mate. You're home and hosed. You can be the worst person on the planet, and as long as you believe in Jesus, then you're going to go to the spiritual world. You're going to go out of here. You're going to go and be with God. We don't agree with that. It's not just mercy. But it's not just by our endeavor either. Like these other processes of sacrifice, it's all about endeavor to achieve your goal. So it's not one or the other. It's not just your endeavor, and it's not just mercy. It's a combination of your works and the Lord's mercy and the mercy of the devotee. And when you combine the both, then it works. You put your endeavor in, the Krishna's watching. He's pleased by your endeavor, and he helps you. He gives you his blessings, and he helps you. And that way you come up. He lifts you up. He reciprocates, as my father-in-law said. So it's two things together. You try your very best, but it's never enough. You can't achieve the goal of Krishna consciousness just by yourself. It's never going to be enough. Doesn't matter how hard you try. It's not enough to get you back home, back to Godhead. You need mercy. And that mercy will come, and you hope it will come. Mercy means you can't make it come. That's what mercy means. If you can make it come, it's not mercy, right? Mercy means there's no cause. We say causeless mercy. It means you don't deserve it. Mercy means you're getting something you don't deserve. That's what mercy means, right? Does that make sense? Mercy means you're getting something you don't deserve. Imagine like a beggar on the street. A beggar.
Yeah.
He can't make someone give him money, can he? Or food or whatever. He's just a beggar. Please help me. And out of the mercy in the person's heart, they may give something or not. That's mercy. It's not like a business transaction. I give you this and you have to give me that. It's not like that. You know, that one, you know, you're going to get a particular result. But with mercy, it's something that's you have no control over. You have no control over the Lord, isn't it? You have no control over whether the Lord pulls you out of the material or he doesn't. Out of his mercy, his love for us, then he may enlighten us and he may get us out of here. But that's up to his mercy, his free choice. We put in our best endeavor and we hope and pray and we know he's unlimitedly merciful in saving the conditioned souls, that he will deliver us. So we have that hope in our heart. So we endeavor the best we can and realizing it's not enough and always hoping for his mercy. So those two things combined, very essential. Hey Josh, now we're seeing Josh. You arrived at your destination. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not the Christian philosophy. Don't take it wrong what Prabhupada said at the end. It's just by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Yeah, that is what helps us to achieve our destination. But we want to act in such a way to attract that mercy. If you don't hear about Krishna or chant Krishna's glories or all these different activities of bhakti yoga, there's no way you're going to attract Krishna's mercy. Or you don't achieve some association with the guru, the representative, like that. There's no way that mercy will come. Hey. Who's this? Who's this new addition?
This is the guru. The all attractive one with the blue eyes.
Ah, yes, blue eyes. The soul's in there.
Yeah.
Soul's within.
I
said that the eyes are the windows to the soul, isn't it? The eyes are the windows to the soul. Yes. So this is the perfect philosophy that 50% is your endeavor, and 50% is mercy. There's this, I'll just tell one little short story. You know, there's a story of Krishna's mother Yashoda tying Krishna up with ropes. Anyone knows that story? Krishna got tied up with ropes. He got the name Damodar because of that. Krishna got the name Damodar, which means bound up around the waist, bound up with ropes, through that his mother tying him up. And she tried to tie, because why did she try to tie him up? Because he was very naughty and he was breaking all the butter pots and feeding all the butter to the monkeys. And she ran after him and caught him, and to teach him a lesson, tried to restrain him so he couldn't do any further mischief, because Krishna was very naughty in his childhood pastimes. So she's trying to restrain him. So she tried to tie him to a big wooden grinding mortar, a very heavy object, but the rope wasn't long enough to go around his waist. So she got more rope, and she tied the two pieces of rope together. And logically, you'd think that it'd be long enough, but it was still too short. So she got more rope, tied it together, still too short. Got more rope, tied together, still too short. Brought all the rope in Vrindavan. But she's just a little boy. But it was always 2 inches too short. 2 inches too short. Finally, what happened was Krishna looked up at his mother and saw that she was trying so hard to do this service for his benefit, to teach a naughty boy to be a good boy. And she was sweating, and the flowers in her hair were falling down, and her ornaments were coming off her wrist. And she was endeavoring so much to try to serve in that way. And Krishna became pleased. And Krishna gave mercy at that point. And that 2 inches of gap, it immediately became met up, and she tied him up. Now remember, Krishna is a supreme being, that you can't forcibly control the supreme being. Even great demons like Ravana and Kamsa and that could never manage to do it. But here's this little old lady, she managed to tie up God. And it's said philosophically that half of that gap, half of it, 1 inch, was her endeavor, and the other 1 inch was his mercy. So that's how it works.
Yeah.
We try our very best, but it's not enough. Just your trying is not enough. But then when his mercy comes, then it's complete. So this is a very important part of Krishna consciousness, that we're trying to act in such a way to try to attract this mercy. So the spiritual master is showing us the activities that attract the Lord to us. So the best thing we can do is to take the spiritual master's guidance, engage in activities that attract the attention of the Supreme. The Supreme is a sentient, intelligent being, a conscious being. He's unlimitedly conscious, has super consciousness, and is omniscient. He knows exactly what's going on everywhere, and is always watching the activities of the world and everyone in it. And if you act in a particular way, then he can let you out of here. And if you act in another way, he'll keep you here. If you want to forget God, he'll help you. And that'll be his mercy, that he keeps you in the material life after life. So what mercy do you want? You know, it's all mercy. He gives you what you want. He's the Supreme Father. A child can't, hey Dad, I want a lollipop. The dad gives a lollipop. Hey Dad, I want to go on a holiday. Okay, he'll arrange that. So according to your desire, he'll mercifully make particular arrangements for you. Ultimately, he's the supreme controller. We should never think we're in control. No, we're very helpless. We're very minute. So that's about it from me. So anyone else like to say something? Any questions or doubts or thing that didn't make sense?
I would just say that last few things that you said, you know, it's echoed by all the great yogis as well. Even though yoga sometimes can seem like a much more, intellectual exercise. You know, it's the same teaching. You know, you got to bring the divine. You got to encourage the divine to come down and also meet the divine halfway.
Yeah.
Reach up and invite it to come down.
Yeah. Like the final stage of Ashtanga yoga, which is called Samadhi, that stage, you're not going to get there by your endeavor, isn't it? that stage samadhi means you're actually seeing Paramatma. You're seeing the Supreme Lord within your heart. That's not just by your endeavor that you can do that. You need a special kind of eye, isn't it? You need a special kind of eye to see the Lord within your heart. That's His mercy, that He's pleased by your absorption. First of all, that you've detached from sense gratification. You know, your pratyahara, you've done that. It's a sacrifice. You've cut off from all those external pleasures, and then you've worked hard to try to control the mind and focus it on Him and increase your contemplation and meditation. All that part's your endeavor. But that final part, the samadhi, that's His mercy. He's given you the divine eyes. You can see Him now. You can see the Lord within you, that beautiful transcendental form. Like Krishna says, you can look it up yourself in the 11th chapter. First of all, in the 11th chapter, Arjuna asks to see the universal form. And Krishna says to Arjuna, behold, now I will give you the eyes to see the universal form. He gave Arjuna special kind of eyes to see the universal form. And then he said, now I'll give you the eyes to see my forearm form, Chaturabhuja, forearm form. And then I'll give you the eyes to see my original form as Krishna. It's all mercy. It's all mercy. So yeah, those final stages, it's all by mercy. But we've got to put our best endeavor in these beginning stages, put our best endeavor in, and then always be very hopeful and faithful. As it's saying, we make a vow. We're making a vow to chant, to hear Bhagavad Gita, to do service. That's our vow for the rest of our life. And we hope and that in due course of time, we'll attract the Lord's mercy, and He'll be kind to us and help us achieve our goal. Thank you all very much. Anyone else want to say something? Bhakti Mala?
Thank you.
Deepa? Narendra?
Thank you.
A lot to think about.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're still having these conversations.
Yes. I mean, I personally find it very nourishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I don't give you guys much chance to talk. I can't stop myself.
That's good. We'll tell you if you get
I
bored.
hope you're finding some benefit from this.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare
Thank
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.
you.